Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in the very informal and get up in your shit kind of guy, Mike of Darkest Hour.
It is I, Mike Schleibaum, to help you say the last name. I am here to say hello and talk on your wonderful podcast. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I, as Keefe Chakis, with a name made up at Ellis Island that my grandfather was like scared they were going to arrest him for, I don't know what he did in the old country. So like he ran away and this is our name. So that's the story.
The same thing happened to me too. My name is actually a misspelled German name, and Germans laugh at my name because it sort of roughly translates to like slobber tree, roughly, if you misread it right. And so I feel you on the Ellis Island pain, but yeah, I've gone as the name of my band as my last name for the past 25 years.
That's
so
it, like remotes. Everybody
like
is something their band. I'm Keefe Ghost Cult or Ghost Cult Keefe on social media. You are Mike Darkest Hour. You always have been.
That is I.
Right on. We're all Ramones in our own gang. But yeah, man, it's great to chat with you. First, obviously, there's a lot of stuff I'd like to unpack and talk with you about today. But of course, I want to make sure, I hope you're well, the band is well, your respective partners, families, friends. This has been, I can't believe this is a year of this and it's kind of still going. It's almost over, but it's still going.
Yeah, I'd like to preface all these interviews I've been doing, because I've been doing so many now that everybody's stuck at home making content. I like to preface it with, that we do understand this is a tough time, that people are going through a lot of tragedy right now all over the world. And yes, as a band, everybody's safe and privileged to be able to continue to work on our little art project and have the support of people who also have income somehow. And we are doing our best to just provide a space where we can continue to make art that entertains people while they're stuck in their cubicle life, and then hopefully get back to playing live concerts, which has always been our focus before this year, And but yeah, we like to always kind of just say that we are aware this interview is not being done in a bubble, but we are going to talk about some positive things, which are tough to talk about in such a terrible time. But the band has a lot going on, and having had the ability to focus our attention and evolve a little bit, we've actually got some really cool things going on, and so it's a strange mix of opportunity and tragedy, kind of.
Right on, and that is the right perspective. We all need to be aware of our tone. I feel very lucky that I have, even though I lost some income last year, a lot of worse things have happened to people, and I'm still able to do and pursue my passions, and I'm very sensitive to that. And I'm very sensitive to some of the people I've talked to have lost people close to them, and it's hard to talk about, and I don't want to just flippantly, hey, I love your band and let's get into processes and stuff, when they've suffered like a terrible human tragedy that's going to affect them the rest of their life because of this. And that didn't have to happen the way it rolled out, the way it did, and for sure. So thank you. And again, I'm just humble and grateful to be able to talk to artists and continue to pursue what I do, and be sensitive to the fact that the whole world is going through trauma and a massive psychotic break at the same time.
Yeah, well, shout out to everybody going through life. We're going to talk about some heavy metal.
We love the heavy metal. Just to piggyback on some of this has to be the longest amount of time Darkest Hour has been off the road probably in your whole career.
Yes.
Just like the loss of income, the loss of your crew, so hard. And you guys have done a tremendous amount of stuff to uplift your scene, and which I definitely want to get into talking about the Black Cat and live streams and all that stuff, because I'm so grateful. I feel like live music is going to be everything when we come back, and maybe I don't think we took it for granted. I surely didn't, but some of these places are not coming back.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have one thing that we're well adept to here at Darkest Hour is being in situations that are truly fucked up, and then also adapting to really fucked up situations that have happened to us. So I think that while this is a terrible shift in society, having our business attacked to where we could no longer tour and play live shows and had to like re-evolve almost the entire structure of our focus actually wasn't that hard, because we are a good group of dudes who have been through a lot as a unit. So when faced with other obstacles, we've been able to sort of approach them with a little bit of humor, a lot of negative thinking that ended up getting us to positive thinking, and get through stuff. So we had a tour at the end of 2020, or at the beginning of 2020 in Europe, right before Corona ended. So we got one in right before the shit got shut down. And then after that, we sort of just had to focus, and realize that this was going to go on a lot longer than we originally thought. We moved all of our tours as far as they could go or canceled them. And then we experimented with the idea of a live stream, which at first we thought was stupid and a waste of time. And now, after having done it, was a lot of fun, raised a lot of good money for a great venue, like you mentioned, the Black Cat, and also did a lot of good, created an entire new live record that we're selling now, live video that'll live forever. So a lot of like positive things came from our attack of that entire reapproach, but we make it look easy because I think we've been through a lot as a band. And I think that's kind of like why we've been able to do it, but in a sense, still kind of stay alive, even though, yes, you're right. This is brutal. We need to rock.
Indeed, adversity will definitely shape your existence.
Yeah.
And you guys were always very, not just musical innovators in my eyes, but very, always a very scrappy band, and very, even at the highest level of success the band has ever had, still a very DIY mentality, which I have always respected.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of like a, steel sharpens steel, kind of, to survive war, you got to become war type band, where we're like kind of at one with the process of just being in a band. So we have played tours with Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, you know what I mean? And the Slayer, the Ozfest. We've done tours of Your Brother's Basement, you know what I mean? We've done shows where there's 1,000 people, and right before we play, everybody leaves and there's 200, We've done every type of event, an amazing rock show and an utter disappointment. And I think after a while, you become toughened by that to know that that doesn't define why you do this. Like, just being able to play live concerts doesn't define why I spend all day playing guitar, or why I like to write songs with my friends, or why I like to put out albums, or why I like to connect with people with lyrics, so just taking away the live concerts and just forcing us to sort of reinvent ourselves wasn't the end of the world, because music has brought us so many other things. And I think just leaning on a different aspect of it has actually been educational for us.
Right on. And I see that, one of the things that I think is really exciting about this live collection, or series of live releases, is that you did crowdfunding, which doesn't work out well for everybody. I think certain bands can pull it off and some can't. And it's about providing value to your fans as much as it is, hey, give us some money so we can exist. It's not quite that simplistic. And I think you guys have really captured it in a very good way with Patreon.
Well, for all of you who need a lesson in internet from an old man who plays heavy metal and doesn't want to be on the internet, crowdfunding is a little different than Patreon, but crowdfunding is what we did to create the Godless Profits and the Migrant Flora record. We used the platform Indiegogo, and we crowdfunded 75 grand, and then we made the first press of that album and recorded it, created it, shipped it to everybody, and then licensed it to Southern Lord, who then released it. And that was a painful process and really hard. So it makes sense to me that the crowdfunding model doesn't work for bands all the time. I mean, we're, like I said, good at adapting, and that was a heavy lift for us. So it doesn't surprise me that I've seen a lot of crowdfunding attempts fail, or bands get roasted or have them be bad looks. But ours was a total success. And that's what made me realize we could take the risk with Patreon, which is different because it's more of a monthly subscription service where we give people perks. But our fans seem to gravitate to this because, like, they want us to keep making stuff. They hate supporting us in places where they're not sure they should. Like, if I buy it from this label, will you get the money, or this or that? they're directly connected to us, and there is no management team. There is no distance between us and anyone via the Patreon platform. Whereas the crowdfund thing we did, we had a management company help us do it. We had a merchandiser fulfillment company. So the Patreon is, in a sense, the closest thing to like a fan club, but also the closest thing to being able to contact us all the time and really get in there and get the first notice of everything. And it's not like in the sense where you pay something, you get it like a crowdfund. It's like you're paying for the experience. But this has helped bridge the gap, at least until hopefully we get back to shows. And it's possible that when we get back to the shows, that the Patreon will then provide a really special way for us to hook up people that are subscribed there, like VIP access. I mean, people have done these VIP meet and greets and all sorts of weird things that people do, ticket add-ons, and people are always confused, like, is that artist paying for something that they should be giving for free, which is just like a handshake and a picture, you know? But here we have a unique relationship where we already know you're important. We already know you're supporting us. So now we just need to come to your town and figure out that you're going to be there. And through the Patreon, we can hook you up with access that's the ultimate for any fan, which is just to be with the band. So, yeah, it's been a crazy ride from regular record deal to invention of the internet to crowdfund to monthly subscription to where the fuck we gonna go next. But hey, I mean, we're a band. We're not a Patreon. We're not an Instagram. We're not a Facebook. We're a band. So we're gonna keep jumping wherever we can to get music to people, and that's what we're doing.
And as a guy, that I have worked in music marketing and I've worked with labels and bands myself, I appreciate that. My advice to other bands trying to copy this model is, if you are not already deeply entrenched and connected with your fans and understand them, it's not going to work no matter how much they want your music and no matter how much you need them to want to pay, because that's the disconnect.
You know, what's really interesting is when I was being pitched the idea of doing this Patreon, there were a lot of people who were like, you're a good fit for this because of this, you know, or that. But the real thing that I realized is that it really does not work that well. Like, you really can't copy what Darkest Hour is doing unless you have years of content. Because the thing that people don't realize is it is about being connected with what the fans want, you know, but you can kind of survey for that. I mean, you can kind of develop, if you're not connected to your fans, you can try to work around that. But if you don't have treasure troves of unreleased material, random video of some show you played, crazy, weird shit of people you hung out with, you know, all this stuff that you've collected, then you've got to simultaneously run a crowdfund or run a Patreon subscription service and build the content. But with Darkest Hour, it's like, hey, we've got a Patreon. We're working on a new record. We know you want that. We're giving you live records. We know you want that. What else do you want? Old this, old that, old this, old that. No problem. I'll put together this video. I'll go open up the tapes from this. I'll do that. Like, we've built a history of so many adventures, but really never had a way to share them. I mean, we thought that social media was letting everybody know what we were doing, but it really wasn't in the way that we are now. So it's sort of like we're drawing on some of that. And the subscription services allow us to just like cut out all the bullshit that's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever the fuck. Like, you just pay and there we are, and there's the content and there it is, and this is how you get it. Oh, you have a problem? Message us. Oh shit, here's a link. Boom. You know, like, it's important to us that people have a good experience there. So like, it matters to a band member when someone messages us something. That's totally different. I mean, no one gives a fuck about what anyone DMs us on the Instagram or Facebook or anywhere, or even emails us. Nobody's paying us to look at anything. We're just a band. But this Patreon's different. It's what we're doing to add to what we're doing. So we actually pay attention to it. And I think those are the components, you know, to why we're successful. And I do think it works for some bands and it doesn't, you know, but I don't think it's here forever. So I think that's the one thing you can count on. change.
Exactly. And well put. Thank you so much. Now let's talk about live albums for a second because, clearly 26 plus years as a band and honestly, in my opinion, some of the best albums in the genre, you know, Hidden Hands and Deliver Us and even the recent one, Migrant Flora. How do you pick a set list and how did you guys go about sort of collecting these songs and before you even recorded them, like how this is the best set list possible to do this kind of thing?
Well, what's interesting is the current Live and Lockdown record is a good snapshot of what a Darkest Hour set list looks like on a regular kind of headline concert. Okay. What I mean by regular is like what you'll see a lot of times if we go tour with Machine Head or Slayer or some other band, Unearth, that we're co-headlining with, we still play like, our mix of a couple songs we might not ever touched of and the songs we know you love to hear, so you've got Demons are arguably our most streamed song of all time, Doomsayer our secondly most streamed song, so we look at streams a little bit. Then you have songs like Sadist Nation we've been playing forever and we always know has a great live like crowd vibe. Thousand Words to Say About One is the first song off our arguably most popular because of album sales album, just because that's when people did buy albums. So people want to hear something off Undoing Ruin. So what you get is sort of like a greatest hits, and that's what's happening on this concert. But on the other record we put out, we've tapped into the fact that, man, unlike some other bands, like we actually compose albums as albums. They're not just a compilation of whatever we think hit singles could be or whatever, or a bunch of throwaway songs and a few good ones. Like everything matters in its place. So we have done sets where we play entire full records, and so our album before Live and Lockdown, Live at the Black Cat, is us playing Undoing Ruin, the album I mentioned, in its entirety. And that was a lot of fun. Our people that love our albums love that because they can really dig into what's coming next and they can really get into the entire vibe of the album rather than jumping around from the vibe, which happens on a greatest hits feeling. So I think both approaches have their benefits. Like I like sinking into making it sound like you're listening to one record the whole set and feeling that energy. But I also like the way that Live and Lockdown sounds, which is like songs that span our 25-year history, all played in, better than they were on the records. I guarantee you, live together in a format where they all have the same production. And it kind of makes the older songs sound new and the newer songs sound classic and all of it sound just like one big Darkest Hour record. So, we like both.
Right on. I think I still feel like it's coming around full circle. I'm going to date myself a little here. I think when iTunes first came out, supplanting Napster, and your certain level of audiophile gravitated to Apple and iPods and things, people were very single driven and very singular song. Like, what's their best song? Let me get the best song from every band and make a playlist. And then Spotify came along, and again, it was like the top 5 songs may or may not be representative of a band and their whole repertoire. And now I feel like now that we're kind of settled into the streaming age a little bit and other things like Bandcamp are growing, I feel like people are back to loving albums again, or certain people always loved albums. I always loved albums. So I wanted to get your take on sort of when you're putting out a live album or any album, how does, streaming, affect you on the flip side after it's out?
Okay, first of all, we recently, because of the Patreon and because of all this work we're doing to make cool vinyl records, have stumbled onto something that makes sense, which is there used to be an idea of the length of your album mattering because it needed to fit on actual vinyl product. So the grooves can only be so long on each side so that it could actually sound clear and big, to an album being 15 songs, 20 songs, an hour long, whatever. And, having the value of buying an album be, and how many tracks is it? How long are the tracks? So I think all of that has flopped around, combined with the idea that now albums are just mini playlists for people because they go on the streaming service and they make whatever playlist or whatever songs they want to hear have emphasis, you know, but we are committed to not letting streaming affect our overall consciousness of the way the albums need to be created, because we are still connected with physical items like a record. So we don't want to make them too long. We don't want to make the tracks too jumbled or anything too crazy to fit within the format of actually pressing it on a record, you know, where some bands are even thinking like they want to have a visual component for every song be built into the file so that it's a whole 3D experience. Like, we still like the idea of just pressing it on a vinyl record. So until that changes, the length of a Darkest Hour album, the way that it's formatted and the way that it feels, in a sense like Master of Puppets or something, won't change, because that to us is the formula of what makes our albums the way they are. That's not to say we won't do digital 7-inches, singles, or all sorts of weird things, cover songs, because we take chances, but we still like the classic approach, you know? So I think that's where you'll find our head when we're in composition mode, but we are also a band that has done a Florence and the Machine cover. So we are crazy.
Right on. I love it. Of course, I have to ask, obviously, of this project going on, what is the status of new Darkest Hour music?
Oh, please.
Can we expect it?
Why can't I just do that? Why can't I just go away? I'm gonna go on a rock, okay? And you won't hear from me or nothing, and then boom, off a new album. I'm sure there's lots of you out there that would like me to shut up and go work on a record. I get it. But the thing is about that, people, is that an album is a very special thing, and your 10th album is really special, you know? And I'm not going to be, not even me, my dudes, all of us, Darkest Hour, we're not going to be told what to do by anyone. We don't handle that well. We don't handle rules either. So we're making art that's really important. In fact, it's compounded. Its importance is compounded by the creation of every record before. So unfortunately, we are not just every band. We are Darkest Hour. We have a long line of badass albums that took a long time and a lot of effort to create. And to make album 10 in the shadow of those albums is not going to be easy. And that means it might not be here right away. And on top of that, a global pandemic making it fucking impossible for things to be done the way we used to is slowing things down a little bit. But one thing you can be sure of is that we are artists. We create constantly. We are at it. The process we are one with. So when it is time, you will find out about it first from us, because that's how we do it. And we are working on it. So I can't tell you any more than that, because anything else would be a lie. The future is unwritten. But one thing is certain, there will be an album 10, because there's plenty of stuff in my little iTunes playlist right here that you guys would love to hear. But until it's all put together just right, and it can be presented in a way that's going to make you not hate on it on the internet or not love it when you first hear it, then it's not coming out, because we have to really build. It's that important to us now. You know, it's our legacy, our artistic legacy. So we want to make sure we get it right.
I love it. And thank you for your candor on that topic. I just have a couple more, you know.
Not to sound aggressive, you know, but I get fired up about that one.
Yeah, of course. And you have every right to. And
I feel bad. You're so friendly, and I just get fired up.
That's why
you know what I'm saying?
I do what I do to get reactions. If you were just coldly like, it's in process, you know, I want the real you. I want the real Mike. So I'm as advertised, you are awesome. I
told you I was coming in your face, man. I told you I was close talking.
We're good. There's only been, I've had like 1,000 interviews and only a couple of real rough ones ever, because that's my style. But I just have a couple more for you. Interestingly enough, So Sedated, So Secure turns 20 next month. I think in a few weeks, actually, technically. And of course, again, we just talked about legacy and the history of the band. I do think this is like, because it was Victory, I think it was the first, not to unpack a thing about them, but it was like I think some of people became aware of you for the first time on the second record. Any thoughts or memories back to that record?
That's crazy, because when did it come out? Because if it's turning 20, that means we were recording it right now 20 years ago. Because I do remember recording it at the beginning of the year. But that's I think that the reason that people might feel that the second record was maybe their, I don't know, first impression of the band, is because the first record, Mark of the Judas, was really embattled. It was released on many different labels. The one that put it out really did a bad job of staying in business and basically just went out of business the week it went out. And just, but meant it got shipped, meant it had UPC code, meant no labels wanted to release it. You know, I mean, this says it was released in April of 2001. So that would make next month the 20th anniversary. So we would have been recording and fighting about the mastering of that album right now, 20 years ago. And it was hard because we felt slighted that Mark of the Judas had done so well and nobody paid attention, but people loved it. It got us signed, it got us tours, but it didn't break. Because it never even got released. It didn't get a fair shake. It was so painful. And we I'm not saying we rushed, but we reacted to that album and things were done fast. And I'm not totally sure that if we'd had a little more time, there couldn't have been a few more songs that came on there that I guess maybe would have made it stick. Because what happened is, So Sadist got us touring the world, but Sadist Nation was the record that kind of got us on the map. So in a weird way, it wasn't viewed as our sophomore slump, but it wasn't what you would expect the debut album on Victory Records to have had an impact, you know? But it had enough of an impact to get us to where we needed to be. And now, years later, some of those songs, like an Epitaph, which does appear on Live in Lockdown, you know, So Sedated, So Secure, the title track's really great. Last Dance Massacre, solid song. Those songs get played, you know, they don't get forgotten. The Hollow also probably got played some of the most. So I just am glad that we're here 20 years later with all these other great records and all this other experience born from that, you know, because whatever your opinion is as a fan of what your favorite record is, you know, each record is beholden to the one before it. Because if the one before it didn't come, that album wouldn't have happened. Like Undoing Ruin doesn't happen without the stuff that happened during Sadist Nation. And The Human Romance doesn't happen without whatever happened on the Deliver Us and The Eternal Return, you know. And Self-Titled didn't happen because it was in a box. It happened as a reaction to all the albums before it. And so did Godless Profits. So I think that that kind of ties them all together. And So Sedated, right in there, fits right in, you know.
Badass. I love it. The Hollow is still my jam, by the way. I love that track.
Oh, hey, last song written for the record wasn't even going to be on the record. We had another song that we were recording and the producer fucking hated it. And I had some of the riffs. Like if you notice, the Hollow kind of sounds like Sadist Nation's a little bit style riffing. So I had some riffs and Ryan had some ideas for some drum beats, but we didn't want to write a whole song without Fred, the other guitar player, because we knew he was going to get bent out of shape, you know, if we cut the other song. But he had like a day job. You know, dudes were working day jobs while some of us were in the studio all day, not making any money, but just grinding it. So I called Fred up. I was like, and Fred is a close friend of mine now, and he played on Live in Lockdown, by the way. He played on that song, an Epitaph, and he played on For the Soul. So he played on his songs, you know, so that means a lot to me because I do love Fred, even though he left the band. But I called him up at work and I said, dude, you got to get the fuck here. We got to write another song. Like me and Ryan were going to start working, and when you get here, we got to finish it or Brian is going to kill us, dude. And he could hear my voice. He was like, okay. And he went and told his work he had a family emergency, and he worked like 3 hours away from the studio. So by the time he got to the studio, we had a basic idea of the way the song went. You know, Fred came in and we taught it to Fred. And as we taught it to Fred, we kind of cleaned up some of the details, some of the kind of stuff you hear that happens in the song, the transitions. And then we were done and we tracked the drums. And that was it. And that song got created right there in the studio, along with all of the other ones that got created months before. you know, but it does. It actually it is one of my favorite too.
Good story. I love it. Final thing, and I promise I'll let you go right after this and get back to your day. Brand new signature guitar for ESP. Congratulations,
Oh
LTD.
yeah, boo yeah, blown up. Just saw the link on Sweetwater, man. I have a signature guitar. It is made by ESP Guitars. Look, if you like heavy metal, let's talk. If you just like hard rock, let's talk. If you like country, this might look good on stage playing some country, but it's a heavy metal guitar. But you could play some men's. I'm just saying, I play high speed, heavy metal, melodic music. Okay. So this shit is set up for me. It's a Mike Schleibaum guitar. So we have all of my favorite things in one guitar in the classic offset V shape, designed especially by ESP, that I have grown to love. And, you know, real quick, the things that are special about it, it's all mahogany. It's sort of real heavy, like classic single cutaway guitars that you've all heard about are super heavy. You know, this thing's solid mahogany. It's got huge fret markers, like the classic big inlays. You're not going to see that on any other ESP. It has a reverse headstock. You're not going to see that on every ESP Aero. Also, it's got a Floyd Rose, like the high-end Floyd Rose. Not every ESP has a high-end Floyd Rose. This one always does. It also only has one pickup, one knob. That's it. This thing is like a bike messenger bike. I was a courier when I was a kid. So like, you know, it means functionality means a lot to me. So it's simple. And it's in that off-white James Hetfield kind of look right there. Because I like guitars that aren't just black, you know, and simple. I like some classic. I mean, that's the whole thing here is it's like a heavy metal guitar, but it's classic looking, you know. And the pickup is actually a James Hetfield EMG, because it is what I've found is the clearest, high density, heavy metal pickup that gives me exactly what I need to just get the gain and the clarity and everything. You combine all that with the fact that the most special feature about this guitar is that no other ESP LTD has the scale length of this guitar. It's 24.75. It's just a little bit shorter than every other scale length. And this allows you to do all your Dimebag Darrell long stretches, your Eddie Van Halen legato madness, your tapping stuff. I'm telling you, it's that sweet, comfortable slot. It's not a 7-string. It's not an 8-string. I didn't reinvent the wheel here, but the details are so important that altogether, this guitar for the price point is the absolute best ESP Aero V guitar that they make, period, and the coolest color. I don't care what you say. And my name's on the back. So if you happen to be like way fucking better than me and your band blows the fuck up and you take ownership of this guitar, it doesn't scream like, you know, Jimmy Page like other guitars do. So there's a little room for this guy to be yours too, you know? And so I think that's my sales pitch. Get it all over the internet. Just type in MSV-1 ESP and that's me.
Right on. I love the dinky, and I was going to ask you, since it is the full Floyd, how's that action, and how do you like your action on a?
All right, I got an issue. I got a serious issue with people that want low action. Okay, this is the thing about low action. Everybody's always the reason I go there is because people always seem to want low action. I like to be expressive. I want notes. I want to hear the notes ring. So I like my action to be a little bit higher than some people want to. I play hard. You know, Aaron, who plays bass in Darkest Hour, he's a guitar genius. He sets up everything. He touches all my shit. He fixes it up. I mean, he's part of how I came up with the ideas for some of the specs for the guitar and shit. Like, and, you know, he's always sets the action a little too low for me. He always sets everything a little too responsive. And I'm finding I'm always changing that because I play harder. And I'm also, when I got the guitars from ESP, they were set up beautifully. There was a band recording here at the studio when I got them, and of course they wanted to rip it right away, and they loved it. But as soon as I got it, man, I played it. Then I went over and I took my little Allen key and I just brought it up just a few, you know what I mean? Then I had to retune it just a tad bit, and then it was perfect. So I'd like to have the guitar chords ring, get that resonance from the guitar, even though I am using an EMG. So to me, I don't want that action to be super high. super tight. I want it to be just right up there. So I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with also the playability of the guitar and the Floyd. This guitar is pretty adjustable, and it's definitely ready for everybody who wants to rip.
Amazing. Get ready to riff with this new guitar. I love it, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, baby. Mike from Darkest Hour, it has been awesome catching up with you, man. Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for hanging out with Ghost Cult Magazine. I appreciate you.
Cheers, man. All right. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm going to get back to taking care of business, but you all are going to see me on the stage soon enough.